Hi, welcome to Board with Life News for October 8th. Today I'm going to talk about an expansion for Elder Sign, 2 new Conan the Barbarian board games or board game expansions, Pokemon the trading card game for iPad, and the Kickstarter for One Night Ultimate Werewolf Daybreak. Let's get right to it. Hey, I'm Chris, welcome to Board with Life News. As far as Board with Life news that's going on right now, we've started releasing our D&D podcasts that we've had on iTunes and things like that. Started releasing them on YouTube. That's just for some people that aren't Apple users, or if you prefer to do stuff on YouTube anyways. They're the exact same thing as we've been doing on iTunes, but now you can watch them on YouTube if you want. We released a new bit yesterday for One Night Ultimate Werewolf Daybreak. That was a sponsored bit that Bezier Games was gracious enough to buy in our Kickstarter campaign, and so you should definitely check that out. We think it's pretty funny. And tomorrow we are going to be releasing the next episode of our Dungeons & Dragons live play podcast of the Dungeons & Dragons starter set, The Lost Minds of Phandelver. So you'll be able to find that on iTunes or our different site. So you can get the links for that stuff down below. All right, let's get into the board game news. Fantasy Flight Games announced that there's a new expansion for Elder Sign. It's going to be called Gates of Arkham. It's going to include 8 new investigators, 4 new ancient ones, new event cards, and added mechanics that allow your investigators to acquire new skills and things of that nature. So it seems to be kind of adding more into that game. That game's pretty popular, and it's kind of surprising that there haven't been more expansions for it. I think this is only the second one, the way Fantasy Flight usually does with their popular games, but I don't know. So hopefully this one's good. We got word of an expansion to Age of Conan, the strategy board game, which came out in 2009, and if I'm correct, this is the first expansion for it, and it's going to be called Adventures in Hyperborea, which is not to be confused with another Conan game that's unrelated that's coming out in 2015 called Conan Hyperborean Quest, which is not to be confused with the game Hyperborea that just came out. So yeah, the Conan Hyperborean Quest is going to be kind of a Descent style game where it's one person versus like a team of people. The Adventures in Hyperborea, the expansion for Age of Conan, is just kind of more of the same. There's some new mechanics and stuff like that. And I'm gonna just quit while I'm ahead because I'm already confused by which is which right now. So moving on. The Pokemon trading card game just got released on iPad. The app is free right now. It allows you to get new cards either by spending in-game gold, or if you buy the physical cards, you can input a code to get the physical cards you have in the game. There's not a way to spend money in the game, I think probably because it's trying to be very open and friendly for very young people to play so that they don't spend all their parents' money on trading cards like I did. It features AI as well as online play. This makes me happy because the Pokemon trading card game was one of the first games I super got into as a kid. I missed the Magic the Gathering train, but I was right at the perfect age for the Pokemon trading card game, and I'm currently super addicted to Hearthstone, which is also an app or online trading card game, and so it warms my little heart that this is still going strong. So yeah, check that out. Onto the Kickstarter news. One Night Ultimate Werewolf Daybreak from Bezier Games. Again, full disclosure, they gave us money to do the bit that I told you about. They haven't given me any money or anything to promote this, and I really do. We are big fans of One Night Ultimate Werewolf. And this is my show, so I'll do whatever Kickstarter I want. So there, haha. This is a standalone expansion for One Night Ultimate Werewolf. The standalone, Daybreak, plays 3 to 7 players, or you can use the cards and expand One Night Ultimate Werewolf if you've got those cards. This introduces 12 new roles, and none of them are villagers or just regular werewolves. So if you always hate when you draw the villager card because you don't get a special power, this is great for you because these are entirely new roles and none of them have been used in the One Night Ultimate Werewolf before. It also introduces artifacts that are things that can change players' alignment, which add a kind of new, interesting twist to the game. There's a character who can place an artifact on your card, but it's random. So if you watch our bit, we did a kind of goof on that. But another interesting thing added into the game. And because we like to toot our own horn, our lovely Ashley Birch that is on our web series is a voice now, and the app that goes along with the game that takes place of the narrator in a normal werewolf game. It's $25 right now on Kickstarter, so go check that out if you're interested. All right, that's the news for this week. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, all that good stuff. Make sure to check out our podcast. We're having a lot of fun doing it, and people seem to be enjoying it. The question this week comes from @ClubFantasy. They posed on Twitter to everyone. This wasn't even specifically to me, but I thought it was really interesting, so I'm going to answer it. They ask, do you think games are suffering due to the pace people feel they need to put them out? I have a couple thoughts on this. I don't think games are suffering. I don't think the whole concept of games or the game community is suffering in any way. I do think there are specific games that are probably hurt by this. I think a lot of that has to do with like self-publishing on Kickstarter, because having a developer on a game can really, really help kind of clean it up. It does that last thing that takes a game from being mediocre to really good. So I think because we can self-publish pretty easily these days, because of Kickstarter and crowdfunding, I think a lot of people sort of skip that step at getting somebody else with fresh eyes to kind of hit it with a really critical eye. There's certainly more games coming out, which means that they're more mediocre games, just because if 2% of every game, all the games released are great and 80% are mediocre, well, if you have 1,000 new games, that means that there are going to be way more mediocre games than great games. But I think there are a lot of great games still being produced, and I think that there's still interesting ideas coming out and all that kind of stuff. So I don't think having an influx of games is really hurting that. I also think that the board game hobby growing in general, of course, is going to get more games getting made because there's more money being spent, things of that nature. But it's also allowed us to get games from, there's the recent boom in the past couple years, games coming from Japan, which had a vibrant board game and card game community, but they hadn't really been coming over here. So now there's a huge influx of everybody buying up those games and re-releasing them over here. So I haven't really seen a decline in the quality of games. The really good games are still really good. There are a lot of mediocre games, but there have always been a lot of mediocre games. I still only think it's a good thing that the board game community is growing so rapidly, that so many more people are becoming interested in board games, and that there's so many different kinds of board games getting made. So yes, a little bit. I think specific games might be suffering because they're getting released too quickly, but in general, I think games as a concept, I don't think they're suffering from it. Thanks for tuning in to the news this week, and I will see you next week.